Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network. Brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube after a Kansas City 4-2 win at the stadium, which knots the series at 1-1. As a matter of fact, we talked before this round of the playoffs about how competitive these series were. All four series are 1-1 as the scenes changed to the other stadiums. The Yanks will be in Kansas City on Wednesday and Thursday. Remember, this is an odd series because it had 3 days off in a best-of-5 series, and it leaves the Yankees with a big option. Now, I watched Boone's post-game tonight. He was not asked about it. I know he probably wouldn't have answered the question anyway. Okay, because it's Schmidt against Lugo in Game 3. But if he gets a 2-1 lead, if he's down 2-1, obviously he has to pitch Cole in Game 4 on full rest. If he wins, he doesn't have to pitch Cole on regular rest. I doubt he would, okay? He doesn't have to. He could look to close it out there, but he doesn't have to. He could hold him for Game 5, which would be the logical thing to do, so you'd have him ready for the next round on full rest. I would expect that. That's what this allows him to do. It also means you're going to see a lot more rested closes in this series because of the fact that they have the added days off, the extra days off in this series, which means you're going to see more premium guys out of the pen with better stuff because they're not getting abused in this series. There's too many days off in between. Now, he was asked tonight about Judge. He's always going to get asked about Judge. Judge has now a theme carrying or following him about him being a poor postseason hitter. It's going to follow him until he breaks out. It's logical, and he can sit there and say, and he handles it the way a manager's supposed to, hey, he's been on base 3 times in 2 games. We're fine. You're not fine. Okay, this is a guy who had 58 home runs and 144 RBIs. When he's batting 143 after 2 games and has an infield single and 2 walks, and you're 1-1, it's not enough. When he left all those guys on base in Game 1, it's not enough. When he drives the ball to the track, it's not enough. Okay, they come to expect both him and Soto. Now, Soto's got batting average, but tonight, very quiet. He struck out a couple of times, which doesn't usually happen that much. He had 1 walk, didn't have a hit. I was surprised to see, I have to admit, to see Birdie at first base. I got to be honest, he had a really good game. He had good at-bats. Even got a base hit in the last inning to at least bring the time run to the plate after the Chisholm homer. I can live without Chisholm going around the bases that way in a game. Hey, you're a Yankee. You're down 4-1 in the 9th inning. I don't need all the nonsense on the base paths. Just, you know what, get in the dugout, and it's 4-2. You know, save your histrionics for later. I could live without all that dancing and everything going around the bases. I understand it's a new world, but I don't need to see that in a losing effort in the playoffs. I thought Birdie had good at-bats. He played a great defense at first base. First game he'd ever played as a professional at first base, but he is a very talented fielder. So it's not a problem. Now, the one thing that's a problem, just like Chisholm is taken to third base, he made a bad throw tonight. And about third base is usually, when they move a guy over there, it's about having a third base arm. A third base arm takes some doing. You got to have the ability to throw the ball from deep behind the bag when you get a ball back there, and he made a bad throw. But he was not in position for the cutoff. Now, a lot of times when you're just moving to a position, the cutoff plays don't come rote like they usually would for someone who lives at the position. At third base, you have cutoff responsibilities. At first base, you have enormous cutoff and bunt responsibilities. So you have to think of those things. I didn't say Birdie was out of position. I didn't say he was. But Chisholm was clearly out of position. They got a couple extra bases, and they turned those into runs. Those turned out to be very big runs in the game. Both bullpens were effective. That was a spot, the spot to give up a home run is 4-1 up with no one on. That's the spot to give up a home run because you can dust that home run. You really can. If there's a guy on, you can't dust it. If there's no one on, you can dust that home run. And at Yankee Stadium, you have to be able to dust solo home runs because there's a lot of them. Sometimes they're on balls that you didn't give up a real heavy contact on. That was one that was hitting the upper deck. But a lot of times you can, have a right hand to just, take a ball that he didn't hit that well and dunk it in the first row. It happens. I mean, it's a short porch. So you have to be able to dust those solo home runs in spots like that when you have a lead. And the closer was able to do that. He got the ground balls he needed after that, giving up only the birdie single. They get a win. They're 4-2. And they're 4-2. And they are looking at a situation where Witt is, I believe, if I went back to game one, I think he's 0 for 8 with 5 strikeouts in the 2 games. I'm pretty sure he's 0 for 8. And I think he struck out 5 times. As a matter of fact, he's been chasing pitches down on the strike. He got called out on a bad pitch the other night, which was low. But now, since then, he's been chasing balls in the dirt like crazy. But hey, the difference is this. In the regular season, you play 3 games and go 0 for 12. In July, nobody notices. But if you open the playoffs as an MVP candidate at 0 and 12, you're a choker. That's the way it happens. And that's the way it's going to happen for Witt. That's why he has the contract he has. That's why he has the attention he has. And it's going to happen for Judge more than anybody because he's Judge. And so far, Judge hasn't stamped anything in these 2 games. And he's had opportunities. So they're 2 games in. Now, the rule of thumb in any 7-game series, forget 5-game series, you can magnify it, even multiply it in a 5-game series. The idea in these postseason series is don't lose 2 games in a row. And in a 5-game series, don't you dare lose 2 games in a row because you're facing extinction the next day. So obviously somebody's facing elimination on Thursday. If it's the Yankees, they have to go to Cole. If it's the Royals, the Yankees can wait and know we can maybe get game 4. Heel hasn't pitched yet. I know he's available in the bullpen, but he hasn't pitched yet. You can still start him. And you can sit and you know that the team knows, hey, at worst we go home and we have our best starting pitcher, a guy that I don't have incredible confidence in, but a lot of people do. And he's earned that, despite some of his antics. He's earned that with his overall performance. But the Yankees would feel, hey, we go home, we have a fully rested, over-rested. He'll complain that he had too much rest if he pitches badly. I mean, that's because he's, at times an excuse maker. All I heard the other day was he had too much time off. That would be on Saturday because there's a very unusual 3 off days in this series. So the Yankees got a win in game 1 when they didn't play overly well. They didn't hit overly well. They haven't strung their hits together. They haven't gotten big hits yet. Okay. Perez's home run probably did a little more psychological. He owns Rodon. So did that do a little damage to Rodon's psyche? Maybe. He hit it pretty good. But the guy's a 500 hitter with now 3 home runs in his career against him in about 28 at-bats. So, I mean, he does own him pretty good. They didn't hit a whole lot, but they strung it together. They got a hit from Pham that knocked in a run. They got a hit from Hampson that knocked in a run. They got 4 hits out of Garcia at the top of the lineup, which knocked in a run. So they got it. And the Yankees, hey, one thing you know if you watch the Yankees, the Yankees didn't hit left-handed pitching all year. They were not good against left-handed pitching. And tonight, let's be honest, they got a bunch of singles and a solo home run in the 9th. Of the 6 singles they got, 2 of them by their sluggers were infield singles. Judge, and Stanton. Infield singles. Witt made a nice play on the Stanton ball that could have been a base hit. He turns it into obviously once he gloves it, it's a double play because Stanton's they can't run, so turns that into a double play. Um, the one adjustment I would make the next time the Yankees have a lefty on the mound is I would put Stanton in the 4-hole. I would take Wells. I understand Wells has hit in the 4-hole very well, but he has struggled now for about 60 at bats badly. I'll leave him there against the right-hander. Against the lefty starter, I would drop him to the 5-hole and put Stanton in the 4-hole to give Judge a little more protection. And if they pitch around Judge there, Stanton can wreck the game with one swing a lot more than Wells can. Plus, Stanton in his career has been a prolific home run hitter in the postseason. He averages a home run. He has 11 homers in about 105 postseason at bats, which is better than 1 for 10, which is prolific. So I would move him up to the 4-hole to put a little more pressure on the pitcher to pitch to Judge in the spot. Also, if they do walk Judge, which is always a distinct possibility, if there's an open base, they're definitely going to walk him. They're not going to let Judge beat him. So if it's second and third and the base is open, okay, they are not pitching to Judge. Because as a manager in a big spot, in a big playoff game, you're going to look like a fool with a left air on the mound and Judge beats you with a grand slammer. So that's not going to happen. So you leave it to Stanton because he's an automatic double play if he hits the ball on the ground. But Stanton can wreck a game, and in these late spots against a left-hander, I would put him in the 4. I understand Wells, since the day they inserted him in the 5 in the cleanup spot, he hit very well. But if you go now, okay, and take him over his last body of at bats, he has not hit. That's all there is to it. In his last 7 games, he's 1 for 25. In his last 15 games, he's 4 for 48 with no homers. Now you're batting this guy cleanup. He is 4 for 48 with 13 strikeouts in his last 48 at bats. You have wrung that dry. It is time for a change, at least against the lefty. And if you did it permanently, I would not object, because he has really, really gone into a skid. That's all there is to it. Even over his last 100 at bats, which doesn't take in 100% slump, he's hitting 170 over his last 100 at bats, because his last 65 at bats or so have been awful. And he's 4 for 48 with no homers. And I'm not even sure he's got an extra base hit in that. He might have one double, but I don't even think he's slugging 125 in his last 50 at bats. So he's offering no protection now. So, like I said, I'm yanking him out of the 4 against the lefty, and I wouldn't be crazy if I yanked him out of the 4 against the right either. It's not crazy. Okay, Birdie's earned himself another chance to play because he had a good game. He had a good game defensively, and I thought he had quality at bats. He hit the ball hard. He got a single, and he hit the ball hard 2 other times on the line. So you got what you asked for out of him. That's a real weakness at first base right now, because you don't want to carry with all the. I mean, the Yankees carry power in a lot of spots, but you don't want to carry a really weak bat at first base. As a general rule, it is not a good idea to carry a really, where if you got a 1 for 4, you're thrilled, and it's a single, you're okay. They right now are not going to get any pop out of first base. I mean, Cabrera can fall into one. We know that. They don't have a lot. The Rizzo injury is a problem, because Rizzo, first of all, is a leader. Secondly, he forgot more about playing defense than most guys know at first base. And, he can still have quality at bats, although he has lost some of his pop, as we know, as he's gotten older. Verdugo's done enough to keep himself in left field both ways. He's a good defender, and he's done enough offensively over the two games with some big hits, with some decent at bats, another hit tonight to keep himself fine. So he's okay there. But the difference, say, between the Yankees and the Mets is the Mets, top to bottom, they can get contributions from 1 to 9 and 3 guys off the bench. The Yankees carry some weak outs in their lineup, and they need to get it out of their stars. If they don't, they usually don't explode a whole lot. If they don't get a big Stanton home run or something out of the big two, the big two hit, they hit almost 100 home runs between them. All right, they knocked in, 150 runs, 250 runs between them? So the big two have to explode, and they haven't exploded yet. Now, maybe they do, maybe they don't. If they don't, it's going to be a tight series. This team, Kansas City team, is a dangerous team. Perez is a big-time player. They got a couple of guys that are better players than you think, and Witt hasn't done anything yet. So he's going to get a day off tomorrow to go home, and he's going to be thinking, hey, I'm going to turn this thing around right now. And he's a guy who's a 5-tool player, so he could turn it around in a lot of different ways. So this series is not a given. Now, the Yankees deserve to be a heavy favorite in this series because Kansas City had been one of the worst, if not the worst team in baseball in September offensively. And they slipped into the postseason, and even in the games they won, they did not score a lot of runs. They're not going to bomb you with their offense, but they can pitch. And now you got Lugo in Game 3, who threw a gem at Yankee Stadium not that long ago, and that was a gem going in Game 3. So, hey, take this as a very dangerous series. We said it all year. The Yankees could beat anybody. They could lose to anybody. They are not a great team. There really isn't a great team now, and a lot of these teams, the Mets have a really good chance to beat Philadelphia. Detroit has a really good chance to beat Cleveland. San Diego has a really good chance to beat the Dodgers. Kansas City has a little lesser chance, but they have a chance to beat the Yankees. These matchups are not one-sided. So take that into account. As the Yankees get a day off tomorrow, Mets will be back in action tomorrow at 5 o'clock at what I would think would be a absolutely raucous Citi Field. Think about it. The Mets haven't been home. And I can't wait to not only hear the pregame introductions, but the first time that Pete Alonso gets in the batter's box. And they start at 5:08 tomorrow with Nola against Manaea. When he gets in the batter's box tomorrow, he has earned an absolute mea culpa standing ovation from everybody in that ballpark. He got beat up from pillar to post. 3/4 if you wanted him out of the lineup for that game in Milwaukee. Half you wanted him on the bus or on the plane out of town. And now he's your darling again, and I expect him to get an enormous response in the pregame, but then when he comes to the plate his first time, I would expect that you force him to step out of that box because he has earned that with the moment he gave you. He gave you one of the great baseball moments in recent baseball history, one of the big home runs in the history of baseball. For as long as the Mets will play baseball, that home run will be remembered and cherished. So he has earned this. I don't know what is going to happen with Pete. I don't think anything that happens, barring him, winning, leading the Mets to a World Series with a, epic performance, would guarantee you he would return next year. It might not be part of their plan, and it might not be part of Pete's connections and Pete's brain trust's plan. There'll be other teams that are going to be involved. I don't think there's any question about that. And obviously, with the people who are handling him, they're going to be aggressive. That's not the story now. The story now is you look for moments, and one of those moments will come tomorrow, and he has earned that. No matter where this goes, no matter where this series goes from now, he has earned that moment. He has given you something very special, little time to give back. As for the Yankees, day off tomorrow, Wednesday in Kansas City. A whole lot of baseball on Wednesday. You have Cleveland and Detroit in Detroit, which I'll be interested to see how much of that ballpark they can fill. Remember, they were playing in front of empty seats for a long time. Then you have the Phillies and Mets at 5. You have the Yankees and Royals at 7. You have the Dodgers and Padres at 9. So you have 4 big games on Wednesday. The National League in action tomorrow. So it's going to get fun, and it's going to get very intense right now as Game 3s. Joe Torre always talked about Game 3s. Always. A lot of times when the Yankees won, they lost the first game of the series, came back with a big win in Game 2. So many times. How many times did Andy Pettitte pitch Game 2 and win? I mean, countless. So Joe always talked about Game 3. Always. Before series started, he always talked about Game 3. And now you are set up for a whole bunch of Game 3s. 2 tomorrow, 2 more on Wednesday. So these things, in these series, things get very intense very quickly. So the Yankees, who had a chance to maybe turn this into a comfortable series, couldn't do it. Should come as a surprise to nobody. We'll see you tomorrow.